We have here radios and test equipment, quite large. As you can see, all these were hand wired, soldered, and all in place. Took quite a bit of labor to make. And on the back of a Jeep would have a full rack just to have the power supply and the transmitter receiver. To show you just a comparison from then and now all the technology is in one little cell phone. Prior to World War II, the Navy tried an experiment. They would take this type airplane, which is a Piper Cub, J3, Navy known as NE-1, but they suspended these under the dirigibles, which were extra large blimps with a metal frame inside. They had little hooks on top and a trapeze bar below. They'd have as many as 6 under a dirigible. They would go out to sea and then turn them loose, and then they'd go out on submarine patrol, then come back, fly up and hook up there and refuel and go again. It wasn't a very good idea. It was an experiment. It didn't work well. They wouldn't take the place of an aircraft carrier, so that was scrubbed. Lined up here we have several aircraft engines. One of the most unusual is the Ranger. Its cylinders are on the bottom. It's not upside down, it was made that way. This is the way they had it in the planes. Several aircraft used this, but because when they were setting idle, oil would seep around the rings and get in the cylinders, and they'd have to open a valve and drain the oil out before they could start them up. So that was a drawback that ended that type engine. A lot of people don't know that aircraft engines were used in tanks. This one was in a Sherman tank. It's Continental. Big fan blade on it. Take the place of the propeller. Heavy clutch. The Air Force and the Navy had priority on radial engines coming out of the factory. The Army was third. So when the supply of radios ran out, they had to go to water-cooled engines and wound up with a 600 cubic inch Ford double overhead cam V8 that was to be used in a truck engine, but had never been on the market. And that finished up about the last half of World War II. We're looking at a Bell AH-1 attack helicopter known as a Cobra. This was a 2-place helicopter with a pilot in the back seat and a gunner in the front seat. The gunner had control of the rockets on the side, the machine gun, and the cannon on the front. And on his visor, on his helmet, was a crosshair and a circle that he used to aim with. And wherever he moved his head, the cannon and machine gun would move right to left and up and down. And that's the way he aimed it. He opened the different safety buttons, and then he could fire the trigger with his thumb. Also, around the windows is a little tube set in the gasket, and that is primer cord. And it's hooked to a self-generating lever that you pull and turn, and that will blow the plastic out in case the helicopter crashes on its side and the pilots couldn't get out. We're looking at a Beechcraft 3NM, which served in the Canadian Air Force. This is the 1952 model. In the U.S. Air Force, called C-45, and civilians called the Beech-18. Well, this was used for a navigation trainer. Behind the cockpit is a domed plexiglass window that the navigator could use a sextant at night to get his bearing with the stars. This plane we had taken for several years to air shows, and due to the expense, we just had to abandon that in the last couple of years and just put it on display. It burns 50 gallons an hour, 25-gallon gasoline per side at about 4.5 a gallon. So you see, that's a lot of money. Here we have a 1944 L3 Aeronica. The pilots of these planes were probably had the roughest, most dangerous job in the Army, flying at low altitude, treetop level, trying to scout out battlefields and damage. The plane is made of cloth and wood supports, so even a BB would go through it. You're just setting ducks. The top speed is about 65 miles an hour. One day I was flying this plane. I was headed for Muskogee. I had a strong headwind. I looked down on Highway 62, and the cars were outrunning me. We're looking at a Bell UH-1 Huey. This was the most produced helicopter the Americans ever had. Some 10,000 were made, and over 7,000 were sent to Vietnam. This is the large cabin, would usually hold about 10 troops. They were used for troop deployment, pickup, medevac, and gunships. This was the workhorse. And if you look down at the bottom and the top, you'll see a little knife blade sticking up. Now this is in case they should get into power lines. Those will cut the power lines as they go through them and hope that the rotor blades have already cleared the lines. We're looking at a World War I Tiger Moth. This was a British aircraft used for training and for fighting. And also in World War I was the British C-5 that we have a replica of. These aircraft were replicas built by individuals that donated to the museum. The Tiger Moth has been flown, but the C-5 has never been off the ground. In Building 3, we have smaller artifacts, uniforms, weapons, helmets, gas masks, many things that soldiers of the past would have. You're looking at the uniform room right now. We try to display one from every branch of service, both the enlisted men and officers. We're still looking for more donations of uniforms and other items. Anything that has to do with the military, we welcome. We're always looking for items we don't have. Also in Building 3, we have, two, maybe 3,000, 4,000 different items. These are in showcases, wall displays, things that are very interesting and bring back a lot of memories to the old timers and education to the new ones. One of the things that we're asked about most are the little things hanging from the top of the wall. They are pillowcases. Back in World War II, every Army post had these for sale in the PX for the troops to send home. We have close to 90 of them. Some are duplications. But in World War II, there were 411 military posts in the United States, so we don't have anything like all of them, and always looking for more. This is where all the action takes place. These are our volunteers that come in on Tuesdays and Thursdays and make all these things look nice. Bill here is working on a Huey, one of his favorite projects. He was an aircraft pilot, helicopter pilot in Vietnam. So these are dear to his heart. Ted here, World War II, a glider troop paratrooper from around in New Guinea. Ted is here every work day just about since we've been open. Located back in the corner over here, Dick Wood, a World War II Navy pilot. He was pilot of a Martin Mariner seaplane. He's been working on P-51 replica, Bob Kellett, he's our paint man. Anything that needs painted, Bob can do it. We call him Spray Can Bob.